Wang Ling is the strongest being the universe has ever seen. He is so powerful that when he was born, Wang Ling didn't have to be pulled out of his mother's womb. Rather, he simply walked out on his own 2 feet, head held high with his tiny staff leading the charge. But at a very young age, Wang realized that power is completely useless when dealing with the everyday problems of a human being. He faced his first challenge when his father decided that a 1-month baby should have a real sword. But his mother bought him a fake sword, causing the first of many similar challenges for Wang to resolve. He knew that a divorce would cause unnecessary problems for him, so at a rate of 387 times per second, Wang Ling peered into as many alternate universes as possible, hoping to find the best action to help the situation. But all 5 of his brain cells were required to use this ability, consequently losing control of the immense force accumulating inside him. Since it would be a hassle to explain, Wang tried his best to keep his powers hidden from his parents. But on his 6th birthday, a demon lord appeared in town while Wang was buying crispy noodles at the convenience store. Cultivation technology is the spiritual force that give humans power, such as riding on magical swords and shooting magical swords that unleash magical attacks. But even the strongest cultivators are no match for the powerful demon lord. The big bad frog would have been unstoppable. But he chose the wrong time and place to ransack a town, since he interrupted Wang while eating his favorite snack. Nothing in this world makes him angrier, so he swings his goated leg, taking out the demon lord with 1 kick. His parents watch the events unfold, and the 3 agree that it would be best to hide his power from the world. His father made him an amulet that restricts the spiritual power of an individual, hoping for a normal life for his son. But the amulet proved to be insufficient for Wang, setting his house on fire with birthday candles, and blowing the pants off of anyone who gets close to his presence. Fortunately, his mother eventually uses cultivation technology to produce a golden pill that is effective in reducing his power just in time for high school, where he would be faced with his greatest challenges to date. On his first day, Wang is bullied by his seniors, who claim that his lunch money is a fee for protecting him from other bullies. Wang was successful in hiding his force value from his peers, known throughout the school as the Value 5. The weakest cultivator in the school, a girl takes out the bullies from atop, as everyone recognizes the daughter of the Lotus Water Curtain group, Sun Rong. She jumps down with so much elegance that all the virgins pop one in their pants. She puts her hand out, hoping to make a handsome friend, but Wang puts his lunch money out, thanking her for her protection. Everyone can't believe his terrible luck, being born as the weakest, and also being born without a single drop of Riz, the worst of both worlds. The freshmen all gather in front of a big arena, where they're tested on their spiritual force, in order to determine the top students who will be placed in the elite class. Inside the arena is the spiritual force of the Demon Lord, who is sealed in the bottom of the building. The students must hit the head of the frog, which will allow it to detect the force value of the attacker. First up is a man who claims to be the author of this crazy anime, who gets sent back flying for having a weak force value. Many take their turn, and the teacher can't believe how weak the incoming students are this year. But Chen Chao is confident as he takes his turn, putting up the highest score so far, while Guo Hao also puts himself on the leaderboard. The Demon Lord thinks to himself that these humans are stupid, who believe that they're beating up on some helpless frog, but he's been absorbing the spiritual force of each student who takes a shot every single year, and has absorbed enough to escape his prison with a few more shots. Sun is next, and lands a powerful blow that is enough to move the giant frog, impressing everyone with the highest score. Everyone cheers, except Wang, and for some reason, Sun can't take her eyes off him. He enters the stadium, and the frog immediately recognizes the background music.
Wait. This background music,
which played that time he was defeated by the 6-year-old boy long ago, striking an intense fear in the heart of the Demon Lord. Wang focuses up, hoping to put less than 1% of his power on his right fist before he charges forward. As he extends his arms, a ball of light explodes, and in the next moment, the students see the froggy flipped on his back, with numbers on the screen that none are able to comprehend. But Wang knows that he didn't even touch it, realizing that at the last second, the frog flipped over by himself, and is just acting like he died. Wang's score doesn't count, so all the students chalk it up to being a fluke. But instructor Zhu tells Wang that he'll be placed in the elite class anyways. During class, the teacher introduces herself and explains how the trick of summoning works. She explains that spirits are all around them, and that the spiritual force of an individual will determine the strength of the spiritual body they summon. Chen gets a hard-on for the summoning lesson, and can't hold back as he tries to summon a divine dragon, but summons an incredibly useless staff instead, seemingly made for the female population. Guo goes next, and this time, the object is at least useful, but has no practical use for Guo. Everyone else try their best, but only Sun is able to summon a spiritual beast. Wang sees all the powerful beings around him, and is afraid that he might put his classmates in danger, but his teacher forces him to give it a shot, and ends up summoning the Demon Lord, who freaks out at the presence of Wang again. Instructor Pan attacks the monster with her dog spirit, and somehow the two forces combine, becoming a green dog that the students collectively decide to raise as a class pet, naming it Froggy 2. All the while, students run for class president, and Chen tries his best to garner support, despite his disadvantage to Sun, who has a massive fan base. Wang tries not to get involved, doing his best to avoid big crowds, but he can't help himself when he sees a 50% sale of crispy noodles. He gets to the front and is amazed when a dashing gentleman announces that everything at the store is free for all freshmen. However, Chen and Guo complain when they find out the offer is to solicit votes for Sun. She arrives under a blinding light, and the students all comment on how Sun Rom always shines so brightly. She tells her guards that's enough and approaches Chen and Guo, who accuse her of using her bottomless wallet to buy votes. She tries her best pose to seduce the two, but Chen breaks away from the spell and tells her that her witchcraft won't work on him today. As things escalate, Wang can't wait any longer and tells Sun that he'll give her 5 votes for 5 crispy noodles. She agrees, thinking that her prince is coming to her rescue when she's in a tight spot. Everyone else decide to take the free stuff as well, and during the chaos, Sun takes the chance to cast a secret spell, putting all the students under the trick of seduction and guaranteeing her winning class president. She wants to thank Wang, but her guard tells her that he left a while ago and left her a gold pill since he didn't realize that every student only had 1 vote and hoped to make a fair exchange for still taking 5 crispy noodles. During class, Wang begins to stare at Sun, wondering if she got the gold pill that his mother gave him to reduce his magical power. Sun looks back to see Wang staring, and she's usually used to having this kind of attention, but for some reason, her nerves get the better of her. Wang is really concerned, so he makes a ball shape with his hand, and is relieved to see that her guard gave her the pill. He tries telling her with his hands that the noodles she bought him were very good, but she thinks that he's telling her to eat the pill, thinking that her prince is helping her again. She gulps it down, and immediately feels like she took a huge rip from a massive bomb, as the seduction spell is released from the entire class. Sun is called up by the teacher for a class demonstration, but as high as a kite, she trips on a can. Wang catches her fall, hoping that it'll make up for ruining her plans. In the end, Chen wins class president, and Sun sits at home, frustrated and confused, wondering if Wang likes her or if he's trying to hurt her. The next day, students arrive at school with their cauldrons from home, since today, the freshmen will learn how to make drugs that will enhance their spiritual powers. Chen brings a big copper cauldron, claiming that his great-grandfather used it to refine level 9 golden pills and use the drugs to seduce women. Sun arrives as flashy as usual, and immediately greets Wang as he realizes that at some point, he puts Sun under a seduction spell. He acts quickly, stroking his hand past her hair as everyone can't believe their eyes. He goes for the spell, as Guo comments that his virgin mind can't understand Wang's direct flirting techniques. Sun is released from the spell, but the spell itself had little effect, since Sun's heart was already seduced by Wang the first day they met. Instructor Pan demonstrates how to prep the ingredients used to refine the pills, and the students try their best to mimic the teacher's process. Sun salt bays the shit out of her final product, ready to place it into her high-tech refining machine, while Wang uses his microwave to do the trick. Chen's cauldron explodes before even starting the refining process, and he runs out crying that his father is going to beat his ass for breaking the family treasure. 7 hours are required for the process to complete, so the students are dismissed until then. While the students are gone, Froggy 2 takes the opportunity to consume the pills, since consuming spiritual power will increase his strength. But Wang knew that his little companion was up to no good, so he catches him in the room. Froggy 2 manages to engulf a cauldron before escaping through the window, and thinks that he was able to juke Wang. But Wang is the most powerful being in the universe, and doesn't fall for silly tricks made by his silly pet. Meanwhile, Chen is still running around, while 2 girls, unfortunately, hold their skirts down. Wang takes Guo's cauldron to the bathroom, hoping he can wash off Froggy 2's saliva, but he's caught in the act by Guo as he walks out of the bathroom, who naturally thinks that Wang is trying to sabotage his hard work. Meanwhile, Chen falls deep into his self-pity, always failing at everything he does, and at his weakest point, Chen is consumed by the mind devil, taking control of his body to find its first victim. Back to Wang. Wang explains what happened, but Guo doesn't buy it, shooting his toy gun, and accidentally spraying Chen, who snuck up behind them. The purple stuff releases the mind devil's grip on Chen, but also poisons him. Wang can easily remove the toxin with his spiritual force, but Guo grabs his hand and tells him that no one can find out about what has happened today. They bring Chen to the classroom, and Wang tries to speak, but he finds it difficult to talk over Guo. He instead decides that following Guo's instructions on creating an antidote would be easier. But the two are stumped when they realize that the antidote won't finish refining before the teacher and the class return. Just then, Froggy 2 sneaks in and tries to eat the cauldron, but Guo catches him in the act and causes Froggy 2 to vomit his golden energy. They tie him up and try to make him vomit again. And sure enough, they figure out that Froggy 2 has the ability to speed up time, allowing them to finish the refining process quicker. Wang says he had no idea he could do that, and Froggy 2 tells him that his spiritual force is connected to time, able to speed up or reverse time if he consumes enough spiritual force. They abuse his power, and are able to finish the antidote just in time before the class arrive. Guo thinks he'll fail refining the golden pill for class, since he used the cauldron to brew the antidote. However, Pan checks his furnace to see that the pill is refined well, giving him a score of 85. She then checks Wang's pill and scolds him for brewing a ball of poo. Guo thinks that Wang switched his own pill for Guo's and used Chen's pill for himself. However, Wang used a f***ing microwave and never switched anything out. Guo's furnace made both the antidote and golden pill at the same time. Nevertheless, Guo vows to be Wang's best friend, using his faulty reasoning skills as motivation. Later, Chen wakes up to find his cauldron fixed by his friends, as he too vows to be best friends. The next day, Sun is caught in the wild, approaching her prey, but doesn't realize that she is also the prey of another hunter. She asks Wang if he is free for a date tomorrow, and everyone stares while Wang is stunned that girls are so forward these days. The masked men receive the confirmation to assassinate the water princess, but Wang is the immortal king, preventing them from completing their mission with a single glance. Sun never had a boy ever look out the window while talking to her, so she explodes, shouting "Please date me" at the top of her lungs. Their teacher walks in and requests for Wang to follow him, so Wang responds saying yes, jumping at the opportunity to get out of this horrible situation. But unfortunately for him, Sun, along with the entire class, took the yes as his answer to Sun, unintentionally placing himself into the start of a romance anime. All the students check Instagram, and Wang and Sun instantly become the most popular couple in the school. Meanwhile, Wang meets with Master Zhuoyi, former leader of the 7-star squadron, and honorary master immortal for the school. The two met long ago when Wang defeated the Demon Lord, but the public naturally thought that Zhuo was the one who accomplished the feat. But Zhuo realized that day that Wang is the immortal king, so he gets down on his knees, calling Wang his master, and asking his master to take him as his student. Wang uses his trick of forgetting spell, but only uses 50% of the ability since his power is too great, making Zhuo forget 50% of what happened that day, and completely defeating the purpose of the spell, since he doesn't forget the part where Wang actually defeated the Demon Lord. The next day, Wang wakes up after having a nightmare, and gets ready in his bunny pajamas for another adventurous day, when he looks out the window and sees that his nightmare was actually an omen from the gods. His parents cheer him on, telling him that their family has great genes. Wang suddenly finds himself outside, because the dude is seriously high 24/7, walking at a snail's pace towards his next challenge, one that may be the most difficult one yet. The two make their way to a park that Sun has bought and reserved completely for their date. Meanwhile, the masked men are up to no good again, infiltrating the park with ease. The leader has made it clear that failure is not an option, so they take the first opportunity they can. But Wang catches the bullet with his teeth. Sun never seen him smile before, and while the sonic wave sends the man flying back, Sun thinks that Wang is so hyped for the date that he even did a backflip. The masked men continue their efforts to assassinate the princess, but the last time I checked, Wang is still the most powerful being in the universe. At dusk, Sun asks Wang to ride the Ferris wheel, and Wang thinks this is a good opportunity to have a moment of silence from the try-hard assassins. But the try-hards try harder while Zhuo is somehow in the area, and sees that his master is in trouble. For a moment, Wang is distracted by the fireworks, giving the assassins a small window of opportunity. Sun recognizes that they're from the Shadow faction, a group of assassins for hire. Sun stands up and tells them that she is the one they want, and to let Wang go. The 7-star squadron are ready to assist as Zhuo draws his sword. But the assassins made a critical error by taking that window of opportunity to break the Immortal King's moment of silence. With just a swing of his arm, the Immortal King sends them flying and calls down his rage to those who test his patience. Zhuo drops on his knees in awe of the beautiful scenery as he claims that this is the mercy of the Supreme God. Wang considers using his 50% trick of forgetting, but instead, he decides to use the 100% trick of Pinky Promise, sealing up all that Sun has experienced today as a secret, retaining her memory, but not allowed to speak of what she witnessed to anyone. As they leave, Sun is escorted by her bodyguards home, while Wang uses his trick of alteration on Zhuo, making him believe that he was the one who took out all the assassins. Meanwhile, the Shadow faction feel the wrath of their leader, who is not pleased that they have failed in their mission twice. She issues a shadow kill order, unwilling to accept failure as an option. The next day, Wang gets to school and wonders if the trick of Pinky Promise was the right decision, since it has its own version of a side effect that Wang couldn't foresee. Duo asks how the date went, while Chen grabs his hand and asks him if this hand touched her while jizzing his pants. The school increased protection for Sun since they received the shadow kill order from the Shadow faction, which states that Sun will not see the light of day after today. Consequently, Zhuo puts the school on lockdown, increasing the school's guards, strong young men who have experience fighting monsters. Zhuo states that he also put up 4 protective barriers and claims that not even a fly will be able to enter the premises, while Guo sees a fly inside the premises. The 7-star squad take down the fly, as Zhuo tells them that they have security checks on checks, making it virtually impossible to penetrate the school grounds. Meanwhile, a Shadow faction assassin penetrates the school grounds, digging his way in from underground. He is the number 3 assassin, equipped with the legendary chicken hammer. The B-rank guards are no match for an S-rank assassin, as we witness the devastating capabilities of the hammer. The weapon is so powerful that it can assassinate, and can even cast a taunt spell on the enemy. Inside the school, the number 2 assassin makes his appearance, releasing a toxic gas and calling down his meteor hammer to blow up the guards. Just then, a chalk shoots like a bullet as Instructor Zhu makes his appearance. And finally, the number 1 assassin is revealed, using his trick of invisibility to stay undetected on the roof of the building, while charging up the legendary squeaky hammer to take out Sun and everyone else in her room. Meanwhile, Wang has claimed all the reward points to receive a free gift pack of crispy noodles, which will be delivered to his location via drone within 15 minutes, set to arrive on the roof of the school building. The other students are informed that Instructor Zhu has started his fight, and they wonder if the fat teacher can even fight. Zhu is surprisingly nimble for his size, while having the strength of a bull. The students can't believe that he teaches history, while Wang gets the message that his crispy noodles are arriving. The assassin uses his toxic gas to escape, but he's stopped in his tracks by Wang, who apologizes, saying that he's in a hurry. Number 3 faces the Demon Lord, but doesn't know that he's the Demon Lord, and ends up getting bit by Froggy 2, who uses his time ability to add a lifetime to the assassin's age, sucking enough spiritual force to fully transform and take out the enemy. Number 1 holds his breath as Wang walks by, and is relieved when Wang says he's here to pick up a package. But he comes back around and tells the assassin that his plan failed. The assassin activates his hammer and says that his invisibility has never been detected by another in his entire life. Realizing that Wang is a threat that cannot be ignored, he releases the maximum power of his legendary hammer, equivalent to that of a supernova, the collision of an egg on a rock, or the piss of a random dude in the countryside. He releases more power than he can handle himself, and when it does nothing to Wang, the assassin is paralyzed by the monstrosity before his very eyes. Zhuo gets to Wang, and Wang uses his trick of alteration again on Zhuo, making him think he took out the last assassin, and concealing his power from the public. The next day, Wang stays in bed, pretending like he was gravely injured during the assassination event. Sun was incredibly worried, so she summoned the best medical experts and constructed a private healing cabin. His friends visit him, noting that Instructor Zhu is making them take a spiritual power test, so they decide to take the test in Wang's room. Before that, Sun tells Wang that she got him some chicken blood, telling him that a shot up the butt of this bad boy will make him feel all better, but he tells them that he's already feeling like a champ. Slightly harder than the entrance exam, this test requires students to visualize their spiritual power outside of their bodies, and Chen is able to muster a respectable score. Students all around the nation are required to take the test, as we witness a rival school's strongest student top the leaderboard. Meanwhile, Guo gets a pitiful score, causing him to want to hug the concrete floor outside. Sun doesn't want to break anything in the room with her power, but Chen and Guo tell her that based on the power level from the entrance exam, her sphere shouldn't be any bigger than the fusion circle of Goten and Trunks. To their surprise, Sun cracks a few walls and gets a score just above 4,000 and landing in second on the leaderboard. Wang thinks he can sneak by this test, putting in as minimal spiritual power as possible on the palm of his hands, but sees that minimal is only relative to himself. The sphere he creates is too big, so he moves it away from any human sight. The wristband malfunctions, but despite being null and void, Wang's score shows up on the top of the leaderboard, as the world wonders who the hell this Wang guy is. Luckily for him, all determine that the score is a system error while Sun watches in silence, since the trick of Pinky Promise still prevents her from revealing any truths about Wang's power. Next, the faculty talk about their chances in the upcoming sword competition, where they will be going up against their rival school in the first round. Their school's record is 23 losses and 1 draw against Songhai 59. But Zhuo believes that this year will be more interesting than the past. Songhai 59 is said to have the best in class among all the schools, widely recognized as the strongest contenders to win it all. The school is led by Tang, whose family is rivals with Sun Rong's family. The faculty choose Wang and his friends for the sword competition, and fill the last 5th spot with Froggy 2. Instructor Pan is against it, but Zhuo tells her that discrimination isn't cool. The spiritual power test was a requirement for entry into the competition, and since Froggy 2 didn't take it, Instructor Zhu initiates a makeup exam, and Froggy 2 scores a 5,000, shocking the entire nation that a dog took first place. Wang and friends hear that they'll be participating in the competition through FaceTime, but are also told that a spirit sword is required to participate, a sword that can manifest a spirit with training. Chen reveals the news to his proud father, who immediately whips out the family sword, telling his son that he's been nothing but a failure his entire life, but is now worthy of their family name. Guo says this has been with him for 8 years, but still hasn't been able to breed a spirit. Sun reveals her is called the Ocean, and Instructor Zhu immediately recognizes that the sword contains a spirit. Guo says that dogs can't have swords, but the dog not only has a sword, he has a phone. At school, Wang shows everyone his sword, and Chen and Guo laugh at the little wooden stick, while Sun thinks it's pretty cute, and Froggy too sees its monstrous power in plain sight. All are ready and packed for their 5-day competition, except Wang, who plans on faking a stomach ache as soon as they get off the school bus, so he doesn't have to participate. Wang is concerned that he would cause chaos and panic if his true power is revealed in the competition, since it will be televised all around the world. Seeing that he's underpacked, Chen offers his own personal armor, telling Wang that there's no shame, since they're practically brothers. On the bus, Wang's sword spirit tries to come out, but Wang doesn't want people to know that he already manifested a sword spirit, so he bribes the spirit with some crispy noodles. The competition is to be held on Songhai 59's campus, and when they arrive, the rivalry between the two directors are revealed. The two go at it for a while, insulting each other back and forth, until the director of the 59 faction sends a beam of light to Wang, just to check his power level, but Wang uses the opportunity to act like he was hurt by it, dropping to the floor in pain. She tells him that he has great acting skills, but out of sheer coincidence, his father's amulet begins to break, releasing Wang's great spiritual power, thinking it was some sort of bomb to take out one of their own. The 60 faction accuse the 59 faction of cheating, and the director begins to ask her own students if they actually tried to cheat in some way. No one has any idea what just happened, but the situation works well for Wang as he is carted off to the nurse's office. After slipping away unnoticed, Wang realizes that with his broken amulet, using his spiritual force a few more times may induce a calamity that will destroy the world, so he calls his father, who is taking a dump, and asks him for a new amulet. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, his father pulls up his pants and immediately heads to Wang. Meanwhile, the other students are instructed on the rules of the competition. As a variant of Capture the Flag, 5 altars are placed in the arena, and each team must maintain control of the altar for as long as possible. A sword must be inserted into the altar to begin accumulating points for their score. The team that scores 100% first wins. Tang points out that Sun and her team are down a man and must forfeit if they don't have 5 members. But Guo shouts that they're missing a student too, but Tang says that he's been here the whole time, as Bufeng makes a flashy entrance. He hands a rose to Sun and claims that he'll switch sides if she accepts, but Chen tells him to take his hands off her before he's sent flying back by Bufeng's power. Chen comes roaring back, but he's put down again by Bufeng, who decides to make an example of Chen. Despite the beating, Chen gets up again and claims that the Chao family are honorable men who never back down against injustice. He charges in like a real man, but sadly for him, he's just too damn weak, as Bufeng makes one of his arms disappear and sends him flying back. But fear not, as Wang appears, catching Chen and instantly restoring his arm. But because he used his spiritual force, Wang senses that he won't be able to use it again without exploding. Now that both teams are at 5, they head into their respective prep rooms until the start of the competition. During this time, the leader of the Shadow faction has infiltrated the school. She has her eyes on Wang, but she's caught off guard by Bufeng, who immediately hits on the hot girl. He tells her that he knows she's no student here, since he memorized the faces of all the girls above a 7 out of 10. She tells him to stop it, but he whips out a bouquet of roses from his pocket and tells her that he'll help her with whatever she's trying to do. She tells him that all beautiful flowers have thorns, and he tells her that life isn't fun without a dangerous girl. She turns him down, telling him that she likes younger guys, but he tells her that he sees through her disguise, calling her an old hag and telling her to stop pretending like she's a little girl. She punches him in the face, telling him that there has only been one person that called her old, and he's dead. Bufeng laughs and powers up while telling her that he's finally found an opponent that'll excite him. She asks if he thinks he's hot shit, telling him that her driver can do what he does, while negating his spiritual force with just 2 of her fingers. Meanwhile, Wang gets his daily crispy noodles and turns the corner to see Zhang and Bufeng. He can't risk using his force, so he lets her capture him and drag him to the roof. Jiang's man introduces himself as Jiang's driver, who is actually a beast with a strong spiritual force. Jiang disguises herself as Bufeng and tells the others that Wang has been captured. Sun and friends draw their swords and tell the group that Wang must be rescued. Back at the roof, the driver jams out to some K-pop, and Bufeng can't believe that Wang fell asleep. Bufeng calls for help, so the driver shuts him up with a heel to the face. Sun and her men have spotted Wang's location, charging forward as the driver sends out his attack, wiping out all of Sun's men. The driver lets out a beam of light that forms a yellow disc, summoning a massive spiritual cavalry that seem too powerful to stop, but Sun blocks the attack and counterattacks with her unlimited blade works. An intense battle ensues, but Sun seems to be a few years too young for the old-timer, eventually overwhelmed by his power. Suddenly, time is rewinded back to the moment when Wang was first tied up on the cross, and Wang is seen with green eyes, before he switches places with the driver, and the threat of the Shadow faction is eliminated. It is revealed in the last episode of the season that future Wang traveled back in time to save the day, since the current Wang is unable to use his power. More on this later, but for now, Wang's eyes turn back to normal, and Zhuo yet again is thought to have been the savior. The next day, the competition begins before anyone finds out about Bufeng's true identity, allowing the Shadow faction leader to participate in the competition. The 2 groups touch their respective stones to teleport into the arena, and unfortunately for Wang, his father just misses him to replace his amulet. In the arena, Tang's team land in the altar of earth together, and Isabel uses her spirit detection ability to track the location of all others. Sun lands in the altar of water, while Chen lands in the altar of metal. Froggy too lands in the altar of fire and engages Zhang in a fight. Tang expects that Wang probably landed in the altar of wood, so Fei decides to run off on his own, hoping to take the weakest guy out first. Guo hides behind a rock, eavesdropping on the enemy's plan. He's spotted easily by the enemy, but it turned out to be one of Guo's clone talisman. As the real Guo runs away, Chen is ready to take the altar of metal, but he's met by Isabel. He tells her that he's a gentleman, and gentlemen don't fight women, so he tells her that she can take the first shot. She takes the first shot and summons a web that connects to the nervous system of her enemy, making Chen fully regret his decision. Meanwhile, Froggy 2 and Zhang clash, and Zhang realizes that Froggy 2 can devour spiritual power. Froggy 2 realizes that he's outmatched in his current state, so he decides to retreat for now. Fei arrives at the altar of wood to see Wang passed out on the floor. He decides to take the altar first, but Wang wakes up, so he draws his sword to attack, when Guo arrives and sends out his ultimate attack, Word Cannon. Fei parries on time, striking back at Guo with all his might as the battle intensifies. Elsewhere, Sun takes the altar of water, but an attack prevents her from maintaining her position, as she summons her sword spirit. Tang reveals himself with his sword spirit, beginning the battle between the two rival families. Sun attacks with a water dragon, but Tang easily cuts it down with one swing. Sun knows that she must take the altar of water soon, or there won't be much hope left, but Tang tells her that he can't lose, since his ice element is a natural counter to her water. Sun charges forward. And the clash creates a massive cloud that Sun takes advantage of. She presses her advance, but Tang's spirit seems to be effortlessly defending her attacks. Things look worse for her as Jiang lands a preemptive strike. She realizes now that it would be better to seize other altars, but doesn't think she'll be able to escape her formidable opponents. Just then, an object flies through the sky, seemingly causing a tremor big enough to distract while Sun escapes. Tang tells Jiang that she couldn't have gotten far, and adds that he knows she isn't the real Bufeng. But whoever she is, Tang tells her to help them win anyways, promising Jiang that he'll help her accomplish whatever she wants after they win. Jiang smiles in agreement as Tang takes a fifth altar. However, Tang looks back to see that an altar has been taken from them, as the spectators witness the shadowy figure of a wolf man at the altar of wood. Several minutes ago, Fei can't believe he's losing to a fatty's mouth cannon, vomiting so many damn words without even repeating a single one. But Guo is reaching his limit, and Wang is just chilling on the side, still unable to use his spiritual power without destroying the world. Fei steps on him, dealing a massive blow to Wang as Guo counterattacks. We find out that the amulet not only suppresses spiritual power, but it also suppresses Wang's emotions, which makes sense why Wang looks and acts like he's high all the time. As the talisman gets weaker, Wang's emotions begin to take over, causing the amulet to break faster. Things seem extremely dire, but fortunately, Froggy 2 makes a timely arrival, biting on Wang's neck, transforming them into a mighty hero of justice, and preventing Wang from destroying the world, since the Demon Lord can consume Wang's power and keep it in check. Fei laughs at the moronic combination, but it's the last thing he does, since a touch of Dogman's finger is enough to dismantle his sword, while a tap on the shoulder is enough force to send ripples felt throughout the lands. The faculty are impressed, especially the 59 Factions Director, who takes the opportunity to compliment Instructor Zhu for grooming his students well, since she likes that extra cushion for the pushin'. Isabel senses the new threat with her sensing ability, informing Tang that the combined threat of the dog and Value 5 is too much for any of them to handle, so they re-strategize, avoiding all confrontation with Wang and taking the other 4 altars as a priority. Wang wakes Chen up and takes the altar of metal, and for the first time, Wang's team gets ahead on the altars. But the advantage is short-lived as Tang's group implements his strategy, eventually taking back all 4 altars unoccupied by Wang. The group counterattack by leaving Chen to guard the altar of metal, Sun and Guo to take the altar of fire, and Wang to take the altar of water. Guo makes a flashy entrance, hoping to distract Zheng while Sun takes the altar. Zheng eventually realizes their scheme and dashes back for the altar. Meanwhile, Wang has taken the altar of water, and Chen readies himself to take on Jiang, who left the altar of earth to claim the altar of metal. Back at the altar of fire, Guo uses his word cannon to stop Zheng, but Zheng trips on a rock, and the word cannon heads straight for Sun, forcing her to block and giving enough time for Tang to arrive. Tang's plan works to perfection, maintaining control of the majority of the altars and sieging the altar of metal. He plans on keeping both the altar of wood and earth undefended, but keeps Isabel's eyes on Wang, and if he ever leaves to take another altar, Isabel plans on taking the altar of water. Sun recognizes that the only way they can win is if Chen defends his altar, and Sun and Guo take the altar of fire. Chen does a great job dodging Jiang's attacks, realizing that the goal isn't to defeat the enemy, but to keep the altar as long as possible so that they accumulate points. Jiang tries to provoke him by calling him a woman, and Chen is reminded of the trauma that he faced from his father all his life. But he keeps his mental game strong, recognizing that power doesn't solve everything. Jiang ends up pissing herself off, since she's unable to unleash her true power with all the faculty watching her every move. Just then, Jiang realizes why it's called the Altar of Metal, so she sucks up all the metal leaves and launches a devastating attack. Chen blocks and tries his best to hold the line for as long as possible. Meanwhile, Sun commands Guo to charge his spirit sword. Since Guo's sword has a special ability, she engages the enemy and buys as much time as possible for Guo. Back at the altar of metal, Chen has reached his limit, but he still uses every ounce of energy left in him to delay Jiang as much as possible. Jiang kicks him away, and as she begins to take the altar, Chen cries that he doesn't want to lose. Combining his spiritual force with his emotional strength, driven by love and friendship. And in that moment, Chen manifests his sword spirit in the form of 2 arms that revitalize his strength. He swings with all he has, and is able to punch through Jiang's defenses, and successfully preventing her from taking the altar. At the altar of fire, Sun has bought enough time, so she sends her sword spirit to Guo as a sacrifice, a requirement for Guo's ultimate attack in the form of a phoenix that incinerates their enemy. The 60 faction isn't done as Wang unequips the dog and takes the altar of wood, circumventing Isabel's plan undetected. Isabel figures this out too late, and Froggy too uses his trick of tongue hypnosis, paralyzing her from the thought of being violated by a frog. Things seem to be coming down to the wire. And despite the fact that our team has 4 altars, the 59 faction has had a tremendous lead, so the 60 faction must take the last altar to prevent a loss. Suddenly, Jiang whispers that she's had enough, losing her shit as she reveals her disguise. She deals with Chen and heads for her main target. Victory is right around the corner, and all Wang has to do is take the last altar. But the feeling of winning and losing is something Wang has long avoided. Ever since he was a little boy, Wang avoided things like success and failure. Whether he failed a race on purpose or succeeded by getting a perfect score on a test by accident, Wang removed his personal feelings and emotions from such ordeals, all in order to prevent an apocalypse of his own making. For Wang, thinking about the meaning of life and what it means to be human were thoughts outside of his boundary of existence. But Wang's heart has always been searching for the light at the end of the tunnel, and the moments of persistence from Sun, along with the strong bonds of friendship built with Chen and Guo, have led Wang astray. If it was only for him, he would pass the opportunity to win. But if it's for the people he cares about the most, then he'll try his best to limit the strong emotions building inside him. He tries to restrain that feeling, but the more he does, the more that emotion wants to escape. He decides to give up as he always has, but Sun comes by his side, thanking him for all he's done, and tells him that he's not alone. And for some reason, Sun's words have a calming effect on his heart as she holds his hand to victory. The 60 faction celebrate the win. Suddenly, Jiang appears from behind, and in that moment of distraction, Jiang assassinates her target as Sun's soul dissipates from existence. Froggy too stops time, but not even time can stop the immortal king. Wang goes berserk, bombarding Jiang with his fists and smashing her with outsized boulders until she's left paralyzed on the floor. In that very last moment, Wang hears Sun's voice and regains his senses. He tries to use his trick of repairing on Sun, but a dead person cannot be fixed. Froggy too tells him that a person's fate is etched into the flow of time, but Wang chooses to deny fate and decides that he will use his grand trick of reset, but every time he does, Wang ends up destroying the world. After resetting and failing 10,086 times, Wang travels back to the moment of Sun's death, accepting that he needs to find another solution. Froggy too tells him that they can try to reverse time instead of resetting it, but tells him that rewinding time is against the laws of nature, and that there will be consequences. Wang says that there isn't anything worse than losing Sun, so Froggy too offers his support. Time reverses to the first day of high school, and Wang has no memories of the previous events. But as he lives through his daily life, Wang realizes that something very important is missing in this life. In our eyes, we see that in this version of events, Sun is completely out of the picture, and we find out that instead of reversing time, Froggy too's time bend and Wang's space adjustment converge to create a whole new world entirely, rather than manipulating the old timeline. And in order to sustain this fake world, the new world begins to absorb the contents of the old world, thereby destroying it. Meanwhile, a little girl is appointed as the new leader of the underworld, and is informed that the immortal king is about to destroy heaven, hell, and earth for the sake of a girl. Just then, Sun Rong walks into her domain, and the little girl is surprised to see the descendant of the Monkey King, who is the little girl's master. Not wanting to feel the Monkey King's wrath, and after finding out that Sun is the girl the immortal king wants back, the little girl tells Sun that this is just a dream, and sends her back to the mortal realm. Sun wakes up to the apocalypse, and Wang's sword spirit tells her what happened. He tells her that they need to wake up Wang to save the real world, and that she can use him to do so. When she tells him that she's ready, he asks her if she's scared of destroying Wang's new world. But she tells him for a girl, to love is to destroy worlds. I'm a guy, so I have no idea what that means, but hey, sounds romantic. With a full sense of purpose, Sun charges in and pierces Wang with his own sword, shattering the shield that keeps him in his own delusions. She pulls him out, telling him that she found him. As the four gaze at the destruction caused, Wang attempts to use his grand trick of repairing to heal the world. But Froggy 2 tells him that he acted against the laws of nature, disallowing him from repairing the chaos he has brought to the world. But Sun's act of love split the loop of time and space apart, giving them the ability to reverse the timeline without consequence. However, since it is a reversal of time, Sun's memories of the events will be lost. Sun says that she doesn't care, believing that her feelings for Wang transcend space and time. And no matter how much time is manipulated, she will always end up by his side. As the two hold hands, a ball of light shines brightly, and in an instant, time is rewinded back to when Jiang revealed herself, as Wang squashes her like a bug and prevents Sun's death. Wang's father gets to him, as Froggy 2 asks Wang if he's still okay with putting on the amulet, but he sees everyone happy, and says that he chooses world peace over his own happiness. What a legend for making it to the end. See you in this next video.